So welcome everyone to our Tech Tuesday webinar on February 16th. This is one of our last webinars for this fiscal year. We'll have just one more in March. And then we restart everything in April. So this is not the end. There will be more Tech Tuesdays coming to you over the next months. But we have scheduled this one and the next one in advance. So we just want to let you know that we are very excited. And I want to welcome Mary-Ann for joining us today and agreeing to do the presentation for us. Mary-Ann is from Windsor, and she will be talking to us today about Google Apps for Education and how those could be used in adult literacy programs. So Mary-Ann, I'm going to ask you to switch the slides as we go over the first few. I'm going to say hello to all of you. My name is Monica. I'm working for Alpha Plus in Toronto, Canada. I can see that some of you are coming to us from different provinces and sometimes even from outside of the country, which is fantastic. I have been working for Alpha Plus for over 15 years, although my LinkedIn profile just recently reminded me that it's actually 17 years, so I need to update my numbers. I love technology and exploring how it can be used with instructors, administrators, and anyone who would like to use technology to learn, to gather information, and to explore in some way. I love meeting new people and connecting with different users. I'm going to say that I met Mary-Ann, I think last year at LOBAC conference. Mary-Ann is actually a LOBAC board member, and we are doing this session today. I'm really excited about it as well. Now, I'm going to just tell you a few words about Mary-Ann because she's going to introduce herself a bit later as well. And she is the educator and literacy instructor since 2010, working with assistive technologies and instructor at St. Clair College. Board member of LOBAC Literacy Ontario. That's how we met and where we met. And I'm really excited to have you, Mary-Ann, with us today. As I will be handing over the microphone to you shortly, I will ask you if you want to add a bit more details about yourself when you will be starting off. Is that okay, Mary-Ann?
Sure.
Perfect. Okay. So let's talk about today's session a bit. We'll just give you a quick overview before we get into the session. We will start off with the housekeeping tips, and that's when I will be talking. After that, I'm going to hand it over to Mary-Ann, and she's going to talk about Google accounts and the Chrome Web Store. Some of you may be familiar with Google and Gmail accounts and the Chrome Web Store, but we will do a quick review of that as well because it's part of the Google apps. And Mary-Ann is going to highlight some of the apps that she uses with some of her learners or suggests us using it as well. We'll talk about some of the lesson plan activities. And then at the end, when we wrap up everything, we will have a feedback and information about the upcoming sessions as well. Now, the main objective for us today is to incorporate Google for Education apps in your literacy program. And it is for anyone who is just starting off and learning about Google Apps for Education, and those of you who are using some of the Google apps as well, to clarify what's the difference between them and how you can be using them. Very likely you may be using them already. So let's start with a few webinar housekeeping tips. Just to make sure that everybody is okay and comfortable with the navigation, we are using a tool called GoToWebinar. Many of you on the right side of your screen will have a panel where you can control your settings, very likely the audio and microphone and speakers. There's a box that says questions. That's where you can type in questions that will be coming in to us. It could be questions or comments or feedback. Some of you may be used to other tools that may have chat features. In this case, the question box replaces the chat feature for you as a participant. On the left side is the main screen where you will see everything that Mary-Ann is sharing with you. Today, Mary-Ann is navigating the screen, so thank you, Mary-Ann, for doing that. I actually feel very weird without touching the mouse right now, but this is really cool. Thank you for doing that. And just a few more tips to make sure that you're okay with it. You will have an orange arrow that allows you to hide the control panel. Just move it to the left or to the right to navigate it. With the audio settings, if there's any issues, make sure that you go to the audio section. You can test everything there. And just a quick reminder that today's session is being recorded. And if everything goes well, if we have no issues, we will be posting it on YouTube and including a link to it in our follow-up email. So if you miss anything or if you would like to listen to it again or maybe share it with other participants, you will have a chance to do that after the session. So what we're going to do next is we will start off with a few questions for you. And for that, I will try to launch a poll because the questions we have for you will help us sort of figure out where you are when it comes to Google tools. So just give us a second. We are going to launch some of the questions. The very first one will be, do you have a Google account? And you just have to select yes or no. So hopefully you will be able to see the actual screen. Yes, you can, because I can see some participation. This is perfect. And I'm going to close this poll and show you the results. And it will be very interesting for you because yes, 100% of you have the Google Gmail account, which I'm excited about. I have one too. Mary-Ann has one too. And that's exactly the topic for today. So let me hide this question. There's just two more for you. The next one is, which webinar browser do you usually use? So it's going to pop up on your screen. And once again, you just have to select. In this case, you can select more than one. So click on as many as you can to give us some ideas of what you're using. Just a few more participants who didn't participate. I can actually see the percentage of participants, so I know if somebody didn't participate yet. If you don't have time or no access, that's no problem, but we just are going to wait a few more seconds to see if there's anybody else who would like to let us know how and what browsers are you using. Okay, almost done. I'm going to close the poll and show you the results. Internet Explorer, 33%, Google Chrome, 83%, Mozilla Firefox, 17%, Apple Safari, 17%, and other, we have 17%. So you can see Google Chrome is one of the primary ones. Internet Explorer, 33%, often comes with Windows. Often school boards programs that install big systems will have Explorer as the primary tool, but there is a shift to using more Google Chrome or Firefox or other tools as well. So that's good to know. And the last information or question I'm going to ask you for is, do you currently assist your learners to set up a Google account? It's coming up. It's one of those questions that's actually very good because if you have new learners or if you're teaching your learners about technology, you may be choosing to work with the learners and show them how they could be using Google as well. So let me close the poll and share the results with you. 43% said yes, no, but I plan to do it. It's at 29%, and no altogether, it's at 29% as well. So very good feedback. We really thank you for that because it's going to help me and Mary-Ann figure out where you are and how you're using things and really relate what Mary-Ann will be talking about to the presentation and some of the information that may be useful to you. So thank you for that. I think I'm going to hand it over now to Mary-Ann to continue. Mary-Ann?
Okay, great. Thank you, Monica. So my name is Mary-Ann Fuduric. Monica and I were joking earlier. I do have a bunch of different positions, so I am busy with those. I am the Executive Director for the Brain Injury Association here in Windsor. I also work part-time for the Learning Disabilities Association, currently doing assistive tech training in the schools. And I'm also an instructor at St. Clair College in the Instructional Technology program, and also a board member of LOBOC. Actually, my background is in engineering, and in 2009 I went back to school to get my teaching certificate, and since that time I've been involved in adult literacy education and working with the learning disabilities to do the assistive tech. So I wanted to share some of the things that I've done and some of the things that we're doing with Google Apps for Education. And so Google Apps has, if you look at this slide, there's a bunch of different applications that are available. Classroom and Sites are the two that are available only through Google Apps for Education. And right now, Google Apps for Education is available mainly for K-12 institutions, so if you're in a school board. However, all of the apps other than Classroom and Sites are available to Google for nonprofits. So if you're working for a literacy organization, it's available that way as well. And thirdly, if you're not a part of either of those, it's available just to general users. So a majority of these apps only work in Google Chrome, so that's important to know. So since everyone stated that they already have a Gmail account, a Google account, I think I can skip this part. But I did want to show what that would look like. Sorry, I'm just confused here on my screen a little bit.
No, that's really good, Mary-Ann, and I'm really excited just to make sure that everybody knows Mary-Ann is switching between different pages and browsers because she would like to share with you live how she's doing and accessing different tools. So it's really exciting to see that we will be able to see that as well.
Okay, I'm going to go back to this. Okay, so Google Apps are programs that you can add to your Google account, and they only work in the Chrome browser. And once they're installed, you can find them in the Show Apps section. So I'm going to go back into that folder. And if I click on here, I can see my apps that are available to me. But you can also access them here. It's just another option. And then they pop up like this so that you can better see what you have. So what are Google Apps for Education, or GAFE? It's what they call an enterprise level software, and it's cloud-based, meaning you can access it from your computers, your iPads, your mobile phone. Pretty much wherever you go, you have access to your account. And this is what I love the most, is I can log in at work and I have all of my tabs, I have all of my apps. I can go onto my iPhone and I can access my drive if I need a file. I can also, if I'm at home, access everything. So what you're doing is you're taking everything with you in a briefcase and taking it with you. So this, if you go to Google Marketplace, there are lots and lots of different applications, but the main ones that we will talk about today are Google Drive, Google Docs, Sheets, Slides, Sites, Gmail, and Calendar. As I was saying, the user's content is always accessible, and I love that because I may be somewhere in a meeting and someone asks me, oh, remember that that worksheet that you created, can you give it to me, and I can bring it up right there whenever I want. And the biggest thing with Google Apps for Education is the collaboration. So you can work with other literacy instructors, you can work with your student, and I'll show how that's done a little bit later into the presentation. So I get asked all the time, why Google Apps? So why would we use Google Apps in education and for our learners? What's great about it is it's no fee cloud access. So there are other cloud access programs like Dropbox, but there's a fee associated with that. I believe Dropbox right now is $100 a year. With Google, it's free, and it's a very easy environment to learn in. So it makes it easy for the learners, and you don't need to have excellent computer skills. What we're finding is individuals that have literacy needs also have low computer skills, and it's not difficult for them to work in this system. Another opportunity for using Google Apps for Education, there's a potential to build communities of literacy learners so that literacy providers can develop and test different shared resources. What's wonderful about GAFE is it's universal and inclusive, and it has a lot of built-in accessibility, which helps the users, such as text-to-speech and speech-to-text. It also allows the learners to maintain a portfolio of their learning. So as they work on different things, they're building their portfolio that they can go back to and look at and re-examine and kind of see where they've been, where they're going, how far they've come. And really it allows for some personalized learning, some student-owned learning. And we all know that when it's student-centered, that the students have a deeper learning. So I'm sure you've heard of the term blended learning, and what it does is it allows learners to put more time on the task. They can review a lesson that maybe they found difficult. They can go back and look at it. So what we're suggesting with GAFE is not to replace that human learning interaction, because that provides discipline and some feedback. You can personalize the learning, but the technology complements that learning, and studies have shown that it can further the learning. So why GAFE for learners? Well, students, they can communicate with the instructors, and they can communicate with others using tools like Google Hangouts, which is like a chat, different types of forums, and emails to go back and forth. Students can work with others to create content, and this way they're gathering knowledge and they're sharing it in a collaborative manner. And finally, students can learn in an active environment where the instructors are encouraging them to communicate and learn independently. And it's also providing support for those learners that are looking to maybe go out into the workforce, because a lot of these skills are transferable to the workplace. So we know why it's good for learners, but why is it good for literacy providers? Well, the biggest thing is it allows literacy providers to work collaboratively and to develop and test resources and to go back and forth and to develop these things together. It also provides a social network for the adult literacy community. And the United Nations are using this to harness their volunteers. A lot of people want to volunteer, but maybe it's difficult for them to come to a class every week to volunteer. So you can tap into those volunteers that are willing to help out, but could help out over say chat or forums or emails with these students. It also provides a good learning opportunity for learners that live in remote locations or where transportation is an issue. So maybe they're coming to class once a week, but they're working the other days of the week at home collaboratively with another learner, or they're working with the instructor. So they're still getting that reinforcement in the learning, but it's just being done remotely. So that's probably one of the biggest opportunities. So are there any questions up to this point? I don't know if... So
Mary-Ann, there was one question whether when you look at the ways the apps work, are they only online, or if there's also a desktop version of it? So I sent a reply to everyone to clarify that some of the apps are cloud-based, but some of them also have a desktop version, such as Google Drive, where you can access your Google Drive by going to a website, whether using your desktop or mobile device. But there's also an option for you to download a Google Drive desktop version and have it installed on your computer. And that's it, almost like a folder, like any other folder you would have a computer. But anytime you save something onto it, that also makes it gets copied to the online version. So it synchronizes back and forth. And that's something that I use all the time. I commute a lot. I go to different programs. And I absolutely love the desktop version because I can be working in Word documents, Excel documents, and then save them to my Google Drive. And I go somewhere, open them up with no problems. And if I don't have my computer with me, I can just log into my account and access them through the website as well. So I hope that clarified
Exactly.
that question. Yes. Anything else
Yeah,
that works for you?
no, I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm using the Google Drive on my computer, but I also, if I'm out somewhere remotely or if I need to access it via my phone, I'm accessing those files. One of the great things about Google Drive is it saves automatically. So if you haven't finished something, or I know that a lot of students, they forget to save their documents, it saves for them. Um, so yeah, you can save on your desktop, but these things are stored up in the cloud so that you can access them anywhere that you need to.
Exactly, and that's a good point for we some of the programs you work with, they struggle with learners bringing memory sticks and they forget their memory stick or they lose their memory stick, and trying to teach them that as soon as you just log in into your Google account, if you're working in a document, it gets saved. You don't even have to transfer it to memory stick anymore. You will have access to it at the program and also when you go home. Mary-Ann, there's another question. Google Sites and Classroom are fee-based or free?
What's the question again?
If the Google Sites and Classroom, if you have to pay for them or if they are available for free.
So right now they're only available to institutions K to 12, or they say institutions that are preparing students to go on to, say, college. So I'm not sure what technically that means. But I would say if you're not in a working for a school board or in a school board or a college or university, that those would not be available.
And if I could add to that, maybe as Alpha Plus, we have applied to get access to the Google Apps for Education. Um, we are getting mixed messages as well. We are told that as a nonprofit, technically, we should be able to apply because we work as a nonprofit in the education sector, but they're not very clear. So sometimes they basically say just apply for Google for nonprofits and then contact them to ask if they could add Google Classroom to it as well. And sometimes they will. So just go and see if you can try setting up an account and go from there. But the
So
school boards are more, yeah.
at the Learning Disabilities, we're using we're using Google's for nonprofit,
Mm-hmm.
and so we have access to all of these apps other than the classroom. Technically, we don't have class classrooms per se. We have programs and we have different learners, so we're just able to set them up just like that without being an official classroom. And Sites, I believe, is also available for Google for nonprofit. So it's really that classroom bit, but you'll see that all the other apps are available for Google for nonprofits. So you could do it that way. And as Monica said, it's very unclear. They state that it's only for K to 12 and organizations that are preparing for people to go to college. So, like Monica said, apply and see what happens. But not to fret, if you are denied, you can still access it through Google for Nonprofits, and it's a very easy process, and it takes a little bit of time, a couple weeks, for them to get back to you. I've registered the Brain Injury Association for Google for Nonprofits, and we're using all these apps, but we don't technically provide any educational services.
And those are free, right?
They're free,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. So the classroom, as far as I understand the classroom, it seems to me that this is more the administrative piece where you will have an administrator that will run the classroom like a teacher, and then you could have students sort of almost like you distribute or assign emails to them, so they're part of your classroom. I think that's where the classroom piece comes in.
Yeah, so what it makes it easier is instead of, when we go to look at, later on when we're going to the folder where I'll show them how to do that, you would be sharing it with your learners, so you would have to type in their email addresses. With a classroom, it would be like a one-point click. Like you would
Mhm.
just click somewhere and you would be sharing it with 30 people in your classroom.
Mhm.
So I think that's really the only difference.
Okay. And if you don't have that, you can literally if you have the emails of your students, you just put in those emails and then it will still work. technically?
Yeah, there's really not that big of a difference with that, and I think the Google Apps for Education, there's more of a hype to it than
Mhm.
really what it is. The apps work everywhere, so it's not a problem.
And it's really interesting, Mary-Ann, because even me, when I was coming in and preparing for this session with you, I was coming in with this sort of classroom idea. But even if it's not available, as you're saying, whether you have personal accounts or nonprofits account, in either way, you can make this work for you in any way you want.
And my understanding in the adult literacy world is we're not seeing these learners for very long periods of time anyway, like you would in a classroom. You would
Hmm.
have a student, say, from September to June. It's more people come in and after so many weeks they're leaving. So I'm not even sure how, how necessary it really is.
Hmm. But when if you're using the personal approach, where if you set up a Gmail account, you still have your Gmail, you have your calendar, you have Google Drive, all those tools come with a regular Gmail account, personal Gmail account. If you teach your students how to use it and encourage them to use it in the programs, when they leave, they still have everything, they still have access to it, and they still know how to use it.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And these are things that are going to help, when they're looking for jobs, when they're, communicating with other people, for when they're continuing to learn outside of the programs, because we're always learning, and it's just it's available to them.
Hmm. Okay. Thank you, Mary-Ann.
Okay, so I don't think I'm going to review Gmail. I think everyone said that they had Gmail, that you know how to use the Gmail. Um, Calendar is one that we will review. Google Drive, and this is where all your files are and where you determine who can access your files. Docs are word processing documents, so it's like your Word files. Slides are your PowerPoint type files, and then Sheets is an Excel, like an Excel database or a spreadsheet. And then forms is something that I use a lot, and that's to create forms, surveys, and quizzes, so we'll look at that as well. So with Calendar, you can use the calendar to schedule assignments and for reminders, and have students enter information about, say, when the classes that they're supposed to come to, or when they need to come to register, or things of that nature. And I'm just going to open up.
So one of the differences I can see on the screen right now is that I can see Mary-Ann is going to a calendar, but you will notice in the top left corner, there's a logo of her organization, which is probably coming from the account for Google for Nonprofits.
Correct.
Yes.
So if you're setting up a class for your students, you can tell them and then just add their names to it. So that's just a really simple way of adding a whole bunch of students that you have, and they'll get a notice and then be able to accept it and add it to their calendar, so that they know when the classes are being held. So that's useful, and it's useful for themselves to get organized with um, maybe assignments that they have, and further on just in in life in general for making appointments and scheduling different things. So I like to use this. I will add, assignment due on such a date, and then send it to all the learners that, are in the class so that they have it. It just helps keep them more organized. Okay, so this is probably one of the most important things that you're going to do with the Google Apps is the Google Drive. And I'm just going to go right into that. And you can see that there's a bunch of different tabs. Some have a head on them, so that means that's a shared file. And the ones that don't have that picture of the head is a personal folder, so it's not shared with anyone. So just to create a folder, you click on New, and you get a choice of what you want to do. Click on Folder, and we'll do Monday evening beginner class, and you create it. And I can share this folder now. So right now it's set up, because I'm using Google for Nonprofits, it's set up that anyone at Learning Disabilities Association can see. So that's anyone who has an account that's been provided by the Learning Disabilities Association. So as a Google for Nonprofit user, what you can do is you can assign an email. For us, it's an email that ends in ldaw.ca. So that would be for your other, say your instructors, volunteers that you have in your program, so that they would have an email that's linked to the accounts. So right now, anybody at Learning Disabilities Association, so any of the facilitators and trainers, and then I could add different learners here. And then those learners would have access to that as well. So for example, you may want to share lesson plans with your learners, but maybe procedures and some master files you would only want to share with, your instructors and facilitators. So if you wanted to create a file, you would just click New, and you would go to Google Doc. And I have no idea why my computer is so slow. Obviously because I'm doing a webinar, it's slow today. So you can see it kind of looks like a Microsoft Word type of document. It has the formatting tools.
And this is one of the things you're doing right now. You're putting in the name of the file. When I started using Google Drive and Google Docs and Sheets, one of the things I noticed in my folder was I had at least 10 or 15 untitled documents. And that was because I was forgetting to give it a name.
Yeah. And so in Google Docs, this is where you can share with others. I'm just going to get back to the PowerPoint because I have... So you can have your learner, they can do some research and they can write a paragraph online in here, and what they can do is they can share it with you. You can either get a shareable link, so I can copy it and then to whoever I email the link can have access, or I can and it asks me, are you sure you want to send it with this person? So now I'm sharing, it shows that I'm sharing with another person. So they can share it with you, the instructor, or if they're working on something with another learner, they can share it with another learner. I just wanted to get to this one. So what's nice is you can work collaboratively, and when you're working at the same time, windows will pop up where people are putting in their comments. It's also good for the instructor to be able to, add a comment, what do you think about this? Why don't you make some changes here? Is there any questions about sharing this collaboratively?
No, nothing in the questions, but I was just going to comment that one of the nice features is that you can suggest edits. So even at Alpha Plus, we work with an editor, and sometimes we need to send the content for review. So we started using Google Drive for that. We will send a document, and the editor would suggest edits, and then we can review what changes the editor is making and suggesting, and then we can review them and accept them very quickly. Similar feature to what you have seen in Microsoft Word, but it can be also live. And it just seems to work so smoothly because we just, yeah, it works fantastically. So if you ever want to try, I would suggest doing two things. One is to go into a document and try to work on it at the same time with somebody else, because then you can see that you can accidentally overwrite or delete somebody's content. And also trying the actual editing tools that exist in Google Docs.
Right. Another way that you can use it is you can share outlines and templates. So there's a lot of different built-in templates, and you can share those. You can create your own templates and then just share them with your learners.
And it's a nice reminder, Mary. I haven't seen the templates before. It's actually recently I started seeing the templates. And when we talk about templates, there's everything from invoices to spreadsheets to everything you can be looking for, which may be very useful for the learners or even to get them to try different things and explore as well. They're very good because you're going to try. And then I was surprised with how much stuff there was and how many things you could choose to use directly from templates.
And it seems like they keep adding more and more. Every time I go in there, there's more and more that are being added.
Yeah. Of course, very likely the system doesn't want to collaborate with you and show the templates, but they're there for sure. They are there.
Yeah, they are. I don't know what's going on right now.
I like how you're going in with different ways. You go in from the right, you go in from the left. You try different approaches, which is sometimes
Yeah,
useful
this
for
is
the
why I
learners to
try to
know too.
approach. So these are for the docs. These are things that are already built in that you can different reports, essays, letters, um, writing resumes. I don't know, I must have clicked on this. So they're constantly adding all sorts of templates that are useful for learners. So here's an example. This was during the last summer. Did a presentation at LDAO on using Google Apps for Education, and we were brainstorming together at the same time. And you can see that these are the messages that Monica was talking about that pop up. And um, you can see when different colors are highlighted, those are other people writing. So it's pretty neat because you can work with your learner as an instructor, or you can have two learners working together and writing together.
And Mary-Ann, as you mentioned, amazing tool for working on through distance. So if somebody can't make it to the class, you can still meet online. You can still work together online. There are different tools. Google Hangouts, you can have a video call, or at least you can hear each other, and you could be still typing and working on documents. new possibilities for organizations that may have to travel long distances, and because of the weather or something, they can't make it there in person. But you can still run the session with the learner online.
Right, and we have learners with mobility issues, and they can't rely on handy transit to bring them to class. So this is a really good opportunity. So maybe they come to class every so often, but they can still be learning at home and learning over, like you said, Google Hangouts or over email or collaboratively this way. So it
Mm-hmm.
just opens, a huge door for those individuals that um, it's been a challenge to either they live too far away from the class or they have transportation problems that they can't come to these classes. So they're able to learn a little bit at home, learn a little bit in class. So I think that's one of the biggest features of this. Just an example of another template. So maybe you read a story, they had to read a story, so now they can use this to fill out some things about the story. And I think it's important with your learners to be able to assess for learning, to know, like, do they get this? I'm not assessing for marks or anything, but I just want to know, like, did they understand this? And here's an example of something that I used for one of my classes at St. Clair College. Is they had to go in and put in their answers, and you can see that I have the students' names. I deleted the columns that had their last names and their student numbers, but it just gives me an opportunity to take a quick glance to see, do they understand this or do they not understand this? Also, a lot of the programs that we provide, we're doing surveys pre-program and then post-program to see, you know, what the changes are in people's perception. But anyway, you could do those surveys instead of on paper. You can do them online, and online there's a whole bunch of different accessible programs that can read the questions back to you. So that's really helpful for us to get those surveys completed. Monica, I think you mentioned something that has been really helpful for you.
Yeah, so in our case, I'm working with a program where they were finding out that the learners struggled with filling out the satisfaction surveys as they were exiting the programs, and they wanted to make sure that they can develop those skills before the learner leaves, so that when they actually ask the final questions, whether it's paper version or online version, that they know what they're asked for and how to answer the questions. I'm not saying if they know how to answer yes or no, just how the survey actually works and how they provide feedback. So we set up a Google form that is online version, basic questions, a few questions for them to go through. And on a monthly basis, they fill out a sort of quick satisfaction survey. What do you think about this class? Was it useful? How would you change it? What feedback can you give us? And within a few days, their response was amazing. What really also helped is that the learners who were not comfortable with computers, with the desktops, in this program, they had a chance to use tablets. So they would just go directly to one address, open up the survey, and fill out the responses. And it works very well for them, and they love it. And you could quickly see the shift in the way they were responding and how much more feedback they were providing. So we were kind of wondering how it will work between paper-based and online-based. In both cases, they have to read the questions, but somehow the technology actually helped them, and they were much more comfortable with it than we thought they would be.
What I find with learners is they get really excited about using things such as iPads or their own personal phones if they have them, or um, laptops, Chromebooks in the programs. And I think that perception of it being more interesting, more fun, helps that process along.
Mhm.
That's what we're finding. So when we do the small groups, we have small groups where we're doing our literacy program, and we'll use a survey that maybe not this lengthy, but just a couple questions just to see, who's getting it, who's not, who may need, some stuff differentiated a little bit. So some benefits for literacy providers is you can easily create documents and lesson plans from home. they're up in the cloud, and then you go to work the next day and you just get them from the cloud. So like Monica mentioned before with the USB sticks, I know I'm horrible with, I leave it plugged in at home, or I leave it at work, and then I'm missing those files. So with the cloud, I'm just saving always to the cloud, and I can access everything wherever I am. And I love the sharing feature. So if I'm working with another instructor and we're working on some, particular document or something that we're going to use with the learners, we can work on it at the same time, and that person can give some comments and feedback, I can give some back, and we can collaboratively come up with something that's better than if I did it by myself or she did it by herself. And also we can share it with the other instructors, so maybe someone else may want to use something that we have. And what's great about it is when you're sending emails back and forth, you never know like which revision you have. Like, is this the latest revision? Is there another one out there? This way, sharing folders in Google Drive, you always have the latest version, so you know that this is the latest versions. I know, in the past before, I've worked on something that wasn't a latest revision or the wrong file got sent to me. This way, it's the latest thing is there, and I know that it's the latest thing. And with Google Docs, it allows the instructors to monitor, development and improvements. So you can read things that the learner is writing. You can do those little quizzes or questions through Google Forms. So I'm just wondering, like, what other activities can you see yourself doing with the tools that we've reviewed today?
So we would invite everybody to post your thoughts and questions or comments in the question box. I am going to start off because we actually did it recently where when you go to the task-based portal, which is a website where you can find all kinds of activities, very often those activities will ask a learner to maybe open up a Word document and write something in a Word document. But it's as easy, sometimes even easier, to ask the learner to actually go to their Google Docs account and create a document or write a letter or a resume or something directly in Google Drive, because they can access it at home. They can continue working on it. And one of the features that I like, sometimes I don't use it as often, but may be useful with the learners, is that Google Docs tracks the history of the document. So you can see all the changes that have been happening to document over the lifespan of the document. From the day one all the way to the end, you can go back and backtrack everything. So you can see how much work the learner is putting into the document. Something that you can still do with the Word document, if the learner or you forget to turn on the tracking of the changes, you can see it. In Google Docs, you will be able to see that right away. Any other feedback from anybody else? Please send us questions or comments in the question box.
I think one of the greatest things is the learners build that portfolio, so they have all their files, all their documents, everything that they've worked on that is saving in their drive, and they can go back and look at their own progress. They can go back, maybe it was a lesson on how to write a resume, they can go back and easily find where they made a resume, things like that. It's always with them. It's not paper that gets lost or gets wet. It's not a USB that you lose track of. It's always there for them. So I think that's one of the great features.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if no one has any questions, I'm going to keep going. So there are other tools that help learners, and these are more of the assistive tech type of things, such as word prediction when they're writing, dictionaries that can be used, text-to-speech extensions and applications, organizational tools, summarizing tools. So I'm just going to go back into Okay, so I've added a couple here. One is the Translate um, application, so that could be used. I'm just going to open up Google Store, Google Chrome Store. And if you look here, these are the apps and extensions that I have. I'm going to look up Read and Write, which has the capability of speech to text, text to speech. It's something that we use at the learning disabilities in our programs and in the schools. There is a fee to it. It's a small fee. I believe it's under $10 for a user. What's another good one? I believe I listed these. Oh yeah, they're right here. So you can look for these and add them yourselves. The Read and Write, all of them have, I believe, 30 days that you can just test them out and try them. Voice Note is free. It's a text-to-speech, so your learner can use them to where they're talking and then it's typing for them. Google Dictionary, Mindomo is a brainstorming type of program. But a lot of times people say, well, you know, why would you give them the assistive tech? How are they going to learn to read or write? How's that helping their literacy? It's just a band-aid. But the research has shown that using these tools increases reading speed, it increases attention, it helps with comprehension, and students are having an improved accuracy rate with writing.
So Mary-Ann, just to add, there was a question if you could show the text-to-speech app, and you just started doing it. So just giving you a bit of feedback from participants that they are listening and looking at the apps you're showing. Now, just to clarify some of the tools and testing of the tools with GoToWebinar, we have noticed that when it comes to the audio settings or playing YouTube videos directly through the GoToWebinar, it gets a bit tricky because of using headsets and how the sound travels through the GoToWebinar. So very likely, even if Mary-Ann tries to do the reading out loud tools, they may not work because of the tool we are using to share the screen with you. So the best solution or suggestion I would have is to look at some of the suggestions from Mary-Ann's slides and go to the Google Store and then just install them and see how they work. Sometimes they're demos and some of the tools are free. They don't all cost money. So you can try them out and see how they work for you specifically.
Oh, there, and then fine. I was like, why is it not popping up? So you can see now it's popped up in here. Maybe if I start a new document, you can see the Read and Write is up here. And I think my trial might be done. I don't have it. We'll see if it works. Yeah, I think my trial is done. So it's not popping up.
But it's good to know that there actually is a trial so that participants can test it out at home too, right?
Oh, it's right here. It's telling me that I'm offline. Maybe it's my my internet is acting wonky. Yeah, my trial's done, so it's not letting me. It's not letting me use it.
So how would it work? If you pressed on it, what would happen?
So a window will pop up. I can show you in here. So what you can do is you can highlight, maybe vocabulary words and then collect them, and it'll make a list for you. So this app was not one that I was going to talk about because this is not technically a Google app for education. These are this is an assistive tech type of tool that's like it's accessibility. So I just put that at the end as an add-on. But what the students mostly use this for is to press play and to have it read back to them. If they're writing, they can use the speech to text bubble so they can speak and it can type for them.
Mm.
So this is like a whole other webinar that would take an hour to do.
I think we have done something on some of the apps, maybe not fully assistive apps, but apps that may enhance the use of or for online use when you use Chrome browser. So we can include a link to that in the follow-up email to everyone as well.
Yeah, I think that's the one that Danielle did
a
few months back. That included this app.
Okay.
So that's why I didn't include that. I just included it here at the end so that if people wanted to go and explore these. But yeah, if you can link that webinar, that would be helpful.
Yep, I'll do that.
So are there any questions about any of this Google apps?
Nothing else that's showing up here. We are going to wait. Maybe somebody else would like some more questions. But as we are waiting, Mary-Ann, can I ask you a quick question about Chromebooks? Are you using Chromebooks in your program?
So we are using books at the Learning Disabilities Association. And for those of you that are unfamiliar with the Chromebook uses the Chrome operating system. So it looks like a laptop. It kind of functions like a laptop, but you can't add external programs on there, so you wouldn't be able to add things like Word or games or anything like that. All that's on the Chromebook is the Chrome operating system and all of the apps. So it comes with some apps already on there, but really when you open up a Chromebook, you log in under your Gmail account, your Google account, and when you do that, all your apps, all your tabs that you see here, all of that would appear. So it's just another way of accessing the cloud. The great thing about the Chromebooks are they're very inexpensive. You can pick up a Chromebook for $200 Canadian. I have one that I use just for my own personal use, and we use it at home. My son uses it to do his homework. My husband's on it to read articles and things like that. I use it to take minutes at meetings or if I'm working on something for some of my learners. It's light, it's portable, it's smaller than a typical laptop, and you can't beat the price for $200. It has a 7-hour battery life, and it's so simple because there's no other external programs. You don't need to add virus checkers. You don't need to be looking for different programs and files like you would in Windows. It's really web-based, Chrome, like the Chrome based, and that's what makes it super simple and easy for learners to use. So it's an excellent product.
Thank you, Mary-Ann. So we are almost at 4 o'clock. So what I did is I put in a link to our feedback survey right in the question or chat box for you. That way you will be able to just click on the link and fill out the survey as we will be wrapping up. I'm just going to wait for more questions or feedback from you. I think, Mary-Ann, you also had some resources you wanted to share with the group. Is there one more slide, or is it just me? No, okay. Sorry,
No,
probably mixed up the slides. Sorry about that. I wanted to make sure that there's anything else. But there is a question. At the beginning of this presentation, mention was made of United Nations using this system for working with volunteers. How can I get more info on this?
So the United Nations are not using Google Apps for education. They're using like a cloud-based system. So they're getting volunteers from all over the world to work online in specific programs. So that was just an example, just to kind of make us think outside of the box. Using something like this, using Google, we could build a community of literacy learners that, all over the province, all over Canada even, that can, you know, share information and learn together. A lot of times learners feel alone, that they don't have other people that are, have the low literacy skills that they do, and they may feel alone, and it's just another way to reach out and meet other people. So that's where I was going with that.
Okay, that's a good point. And for me, with Google Drive and some of the tools, it is Google based. So not everybody likes Google. We all know that we have all different preferences. But if you're thinking about working with learners who may not have access to Windows-based environments, they may not even have their own device. They may have to go to a library to use a device. By allowing them or teaching them and showing them how they could utilize Google's tools and services, you're allowing them a bit more freedom to use tools that are free for them and accessible from anywhere. So for me, that's the biggest point. We can always talk about privacy policy and other features that we also need to talk about, because that's part of being online. But that will be something that we will need to discuss when it comes to Windows or Mac or Google Online Cloud Services. So it is something that it's always important to think about as well. But I do like Google as well, and I can see the possibilities and how the tools, the connections can change the way our learners function in this digital world that is just changing all the time. And if we don't show them the tools and if we don't teach them the tools, they're getting lost in it. So I really encourage everyone to try out different tools, see how they work. Think about the classroom. If that's something you may want to consider, please contact us as well. Alpha Plus has applied for a project where we may be able to provide some Chromebooks to organizations. If you're interested in that, please let us know. I have your mailing list if you would like us to contact you, or very likely when we will be launching the project, we may be contacting you to see if you would be interested. And as I'm wrapping up, I just want to say big thank you to Mary-Ann for spending the time with us, working with us, sharing the information with us, for clarifying that Google Apps for Education are very similar to regular apps that we may be using already, because that makes a big difference. So thank you, Mary-Ann, and we really appreciate all the work you have put into this.
Oh,
Any other
thank you.
feedback?
It's my pleasure.
Okay, so Debbie is saying she has to run. Thank you for the presentation. And just a quick reminder, we will be sending the slides, the link to the survey, any of the resources that we may have mentioned, the webinar that we talked about with accessibility tools. We'll send all this information in a follow-up email. That should be going out either later today or tomorrow. So you should be receiving that soon as well. Any other questions or feedback from the participants, please send us messages and let us know. If not, we want to thank you all for joining us today. We invite you to come to our webinar in March. Interestingly enough, the webinar in March is going to be a tool called Flubaroo, which synchronizes and works well with Google Forms. So Mary-Ann mentioned that she is using sometimes Google Forms to gather feedback from learners to see and evaluate if they're learning what they're learning. Flubaroo is one of the extensions that allows you to calculate the results. So almost in a way to grade the results and make it easier for you to gather and rate some of the knowledge sharing and information you're trying to pass to the learners. So it's a really nice and quick tool to learn. So we will be sharing that with you in March. And otherwise, anything else from you, Mary-Ann? Any other comments or
No,
feedback?
I just wanted to say thank you very much. And I hope this at least got you thinking about how you can use some of these apps in your programs, and to get you excited about the possibilities that are out there and available. Do go and try exploring and these different things. If anyone has questions or want to contact me, they can. My information, I believe, is on the slide with with me, and feel free to contact me, and I'd be happy to share any information that I can.
Okay, perfect. So once again, thank you everyone for coming. I encourage you to please follow the link to the survey to fill out the survey. I know usually that's the time because you're trying to do the survey and we are wrapping up. So please take a bit of time to fill out the survey, but also if you have any questions or comments, don't forget to send them to us. Mary-Ann, do you have another 5 minutes to just stick around in case somebody has more
Yeah,
questions?
I have nowhere to go. No,
Okay.
I'm available.
All right. And I know some of you have to run. Usually the 3 to 4 is the time you have. You may have to leave, which is okay. We'll just stick for a few more minutes to just to make sure that we don't leave before answering any other questions.